Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you here. Also nice to see some names again from the past events. We will kick off with a short video, and then we'll get into the actual event. All right, welcome again, everyone. It's a real pleasure that you're here today, as I said before. Today we've planned a bit of a different session for those who've already attended the previous ones. We will have some short presentations in the beginning, but then really want to get some sort of conversation going and see what your questions are and how we can help you out with it. So first of all, some like rules or anything, since it's a smaller group this time, more less formal everything. When posing questions, please feel free to also turn on your camera. You don't have to, but if you want to, go ahead. So for our first speaker and guest, basically, we have Damien. He's a really fun professor. Unfortunately, I didn't have the pleasure of having a course with him, but yeah, it's I only heard the best, and not just from within the classroom, but also outside of it. But I'm sure he can tell you much more about himself.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for the introduction. By the way, it's a pity that you guys got to see the video, but you didn't get to see something like the grounds or you know, the gardens of Yachts, because it's a beautiful place. You really should visit, totally visit, even though you might not necessarily enroll into the program. Anyway, a few bits about myself. As Lucas was already saying, I try to be as fun as possible as a professor. Formally, I'm appointed as an associate professor at Eindhoven University of Technology, appointed as a data ops systems engineering at TUI and Yachts. I will tell you a bit more about what I do for a living in a second, and then I will zoom into what we do for a living in the lab in terms of research and, you know, the kinds of activities that you can expect. And also where you should be seeing me as a lecturer in some of the courses that you will embark upon. And then I will tell you a bit more about the program and how I see it from a academic perspective. And I will close the session with a few bits and pieces of, you know, the philosophy around the program, but also what you could do in terms of electives. For example, there's a number of elective programs that really relate to society and societal problems with a data-driven perspective. Okay, so let's move forward. Let me just skip to a few things about myself. Okay, so I'm appointed again as an associate professor in data ops systems engineering. What that means is I'm a reasonably expert professor in big data and applying big data. So from an engineering perspective, keep in mind the difference between data science and data engineering is when data science really goes pro. It goes industrial strength. Data science means playing around with numbers, with modeling techniques, with machine learning, deep learning, what have you. But then when you have that model and you need to put it into production, when it needs to actually come up with something concrete and value driven, that's where data engineering comes in. Now, where you will see me is at the core of data engineering. And don't think for a second that this program is non-technical or is very easy to embark upon. It is by no means the case. By the way, data engineering and deep learning are two of the core courses. Deep learning is one of the most followed courses, my own course, and it is one of the most difficult, reportedly so. It's not my words, is your fellow students' words. I also tend to lend a hand on the machine learning course in the pre-master. One question that might pop into your minds is, do I need to have a technical background to enroll? No, you don't. We have a pre-master course arranged to cope for that. But I will tell you a bit more about that in a second. In terms of research interests, what I do for a living is I take data science and I bring it to industry. I do that in a data intensive fashion. What it means is I only reason with enough data so as it can be called big data. And I also do that with respect to societal problems. So for example, I've also investigated socially relevant software engineering and data engineering problems. Typically what happens is I employ artificial intelligence not only as a object of study, but also as a subject of study, right? So exercising the application of artificial intelligence to specific types of problems. I will not say anything more about myself, besides maybe the fact that I love Dungeons and Dragons. I've been a dungeon master for about 10 years now, and my favorite poison is gin and tonic, with some specific gins, not all of them. You need to choose your poison carefully. All right, so enough about poison. I also do, most specifically in the scope of my own lab, which I'm running together with Professor Dr. Willem van den Heuvel, who is also a big data and distributed systems professor at Tilburg University, so the other brother in arms in the YATS initiative. The mission statement for our lab is, again, to exploit big data and data science and engineering combined to experiment upon societal and industrial relevant problems. Now, just to give you a few words about the problems that we have been tackling for the past 2-3 years. You want to buy weapons, you can buy weapons. You want to buy humans, you can buy humans. That's the dark web. It's the dark side of the internet, right? So in the scope of H2020 EU project Anita, what we are doing is building up deep and dark web analytics, because we want to give the law enforcement agents tools to combat the most modern forms of crime. There's all sorts of projects that are going on. Some of them, for example, not necessarily relate to societal problems such as deep and dark web analytics, but they relate to more sort of industrial problems like high performance computing, or how to run large scale compute jobs over big data in the scope of quantum computing, for example, or in the scope of zettabytes of data to process, for example, the entire Twitter stream that comes out of Twitter for one day. That is, in fact, a high performance compute problem. We have, as a matter of fact, 2 projects that relate to that for a total amount of €1 million invested by the European Union on our lab. There's a bunch of more projects, but I want to tell you a bit more about the kinds of thesis or PhD or master's degree projects, or even sometimes the actual assignment projects that you will have in the courses that I am lecturing on. Just a couple of examples. HyperHeuristics for private by design big data analytics. What is a hyperheuristic? A heuristic is a rule-based approach to solve a specific problem in a non-optimal but close to optimal fashion. Now, a hyperheuristic is a heuristic that uses a combination of these heuristics which are common for multiple problems. Imagine applying this approach to turn a data set, a large scale data set, into a private but still usable data set. So a data set that does not contain privacy sensitive data, but is still usable to generate value out of it. Who might be interested in this? A lot of partners in our industrial partnership network are interested in this. For example, KPN. KPN gets your data, your telematic traffic, but cannot by law, but under the GDPR enforcement in the European Union, it cannot really process that data. We offer, from a research perspective, baselines that they can use to turn that data into usable data. Actually, you will be doing that. As a matter of fact, I sent 2 students to KPN to do this, and they're currently undergoing their master's internships at KPN under my supervision. I have similar examples. So for example, you want to formalize GDPR, which I'm sure you're familiar with. You want to formalize it. You want to sell your data, but keep it sovereign. You can do it using zero-knowledge proofs. Zero-knowledge proofs are concepts or conceptualizations around blockchain, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. These are some of the kinds of cool projects that you can actually work upon in the scope of what we are doing. So again, what we are doing from a research perspective is really turning data into value. That's really where the YATS mission resides. This is completely different as a take that what you will have in TUE, for example, in the data science and engineering master's degree, where you will definitely look at the technicalities behind these models, but the scope and the focus is not on using those models to actually turn them into value, right? So one of the values or the value generation opportunities that we are exploiting, for example, as I was saying earlier, is using online traffic analysis from the dark web to discover cyber criminal networks, for example. So imagine co-trading of drugs that you can keep track of via analytics. The law enforcement agents in the Netherlands and around Europe are looking for these tools, and we are trying to address them as much as possible. Okay, so enough about what we do in the lab. Let me say a few words about the activities at YATS. Here's a few fun facts about the program. One of the fun facts I like the most is the presence of industrials. Now, there's about 200 colleagues of yours, about 20% of which are international, and they are increasing by about 30 to 40% every 6 months. Now, out of these colleagues, you also have industrial practitioners who embark into professional education. So these people are actually coming from the trenches. They are, in fact, applying data science and engineering and even some business analytics in their own turf, and they want to specialize while they do that. The opportunity that you will have is you can get to share ideas and knowledge with these people because they're roaming the same corridors, and sometimes they're even taking the same courses, right? So you get to exchange ideas, you get to spend some time with these people. They're very cool people, they're very interested, and they're eager to learn just as much as you are. These practitioners, where are we drawing them from? We have within YATS about 300, if not even more, in fact, companies which are embarking as we speak into either professional education or industrial collaboration opportunities, or even internship, so thesis opportunities or PhD opportunities jointly with YATS. Keep in mind, again, this is one of my favorites because it is extremely peculiar to YATS. YATS is the only way in which you get to grips with practitioners before you finish your own master's degree program. Okay, so enough about this. Core features of the master's degree program. It is, in fact, state-of-the-art application and execution of data engineering and data science and entrepreneurial, value-driven business opportunity generation out of the application of these disciplines. This is, in fact, applied very much in action. In fact, courses, data entrepreneurship in action courses 1, through three courses in which you will get to apply these concepts in action. They are built into the program. So for those of you who think that the program is not technical enough, or if you have a friend who has had that suspicion, you will be now able to embarrass that fool, because it's not true. You will get to learn the techniques and apply them in action. It doesn't get more technical than that. If you have the question of whether you need to fund your own startup, you get to do it if you want. It's not constrained. The program will teach you how to do it. That's the perk that you have. There's actually a lot of companies that we brought into existence. There's about 20 or so that came out of the program. Some of them actually were blended into larger companies. Some of them were acquired. Some of them were actually discontinued, which is perfectly natural, but you yourself don't necessarily have to do it. You will, however, be taught the entrepreneurial mindset, which you will keep also, and most especially when you will go to industry. And that's what I think is critical. And that's also what's core feature of the program itself. One of the things I also like the most about the program is that you also get to have supervisors and lecturers from 2 different universities, first of all, and that's a perk, that's a unique configuration, but also these are completely different types of backgrounds as well. So that's also why we are able to welcome all sorts of backgrounds from you guys and girls, the students. These practitioners of academia are trained to welcome these backgrounds. It's not like we assume that you have a specific type of background. We expect that you have a very much heterogeneous background and a very much diverse variety of skills comprised in that background. So it's by no way a problem. All right, enough about the program. Let me say a few words about yachts. The place itself, as I was saying, it's pity that the video doesn't really show the grounds and the garden, which I think is one of the pros of the building. What can I say about this? It is absolutely close to Central Station. I think there is a question already. What do you think is the estimated ratio of theoretical exams versus practical exams? Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, so can I keep that question for the Q&A? But I will say something about that in a few slides. So keep the question in mind. I will say a few things about that in a second. Hang in there. Right, so just 2 fun facts about the building. It's literally 5 minutes away from the station. It doesn't really get more accessible than that. And you have housing on campus. I myself, associate professor TUE, I'm actually a professor at Eindhoven, but I have a house in Marienburg, in the actual campus. It's a small house, typical Dutch sort of, around 30 square meters, but it's fine. It's fine. I can live with it. I'm a soldier or a general, if you will, of science. I am not by any way, shape or form looking for the pleasurability of life besides alcohol. I do have a problem with alcohol. It's fine. It's okay. I'm a scientist. I have to develop a vice. My vice is definitely alcohol. Okay, so enough about that. On-campus housing is also cheap for the average in the Netherlands. So take care of that. You can go on the link on the website. There's all sorts of information about that. Again, one of the perks is also that in the building you find either the startups that were spin-offs of yachts or some of the companies in our ecosystem. There's about, I want to say 20-ish or so companies. They are indoors. So if you need to speak to a practitioner, you can literally walk 50 meters and you will be able to find one. But this doesn't happen almost anywhere on Earth. Okay. All right. So enough about this. Let me go also to the question that was posed. The core idea behind how the program is structured is that it needs to blend the 2 tenets of the technical background of TUE and Eindhoven. That's where I dwell, from, and the sort of societal, legal and sort of ethical aspects of these kinds of data-driven problems from Tilburg University, because Tilburg, as you know, is a key institution in Europe for these kinds of aspects. The program itself was designed to blend these two equally, to answer your question. So the ratio is designed to be 50-50. Of course, it is also up to you to shape it in a way in which you want to give maybe more prominence to the technical exams or the technical disciplines, or even the most entrepreneurial angles as well. So this is really up to you. But the program itself, the blend of the master's degree program, really comes together nicely into a, I want to say, 50-50 arrangement. Again, you have the option of a pre-master, so if you're not technical, don't be afraid. But the core program is the master's degree level. Of course, we have the opportunity for you to embark upon a PhD after that, or even a PDang. PDang is, as you might know, a midway between a PhD and an industrial PhD. So you're paid to go to industry and experiment with cool toys in terms of data science and engineering. How cool is that? All right, so about that 50-50 ratio, I'm going to say a few words, extra words, and then I'm going to leave the space for very well capable Sophia, student still at Yachts. Okay, so MDSC, it's a classical master's degree program in terms of duration, so it's 24 months with 120 credits. It is very much accredited, so is pretty much like other master's degree programs elsewhere, either in our two mother universities or elsewhere in the Netherlands and in Europe. And obviously the location is in Yachts Marienburg in Sint-Oggensbos. One of the things that I want to spend 1 minute upon, the pre-masters is rigged to start in February. That means that you have time to complete your training until the end of your academic year, and then you get to enroll into the pre-master. This is because we want to accommodate also the bachelor's degree program, which is contiguous to our own, but also welcome as many of you as possible. But we can comment on this a bit more. I think I've said a few words about the philosophy of the program, which is designed to blend 50-50 of the two main aspects or streams of thought into equally well. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just want to show you the actual curriculum and where these disciplines actually come about. So everything which is blue relates to things that we do in the lab. So cybersecurity, for example, data engineering, these are responsibilities of my own lab, Jade Lab, which I just introduced at the very beginning. But also some of the data analytics disciplines, that's also where we cover. And we do it because we draw heavily from TU Eindhoven and the expertise there. So this is the kind of program that you see. You also find all of the details in the study guide, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Just know that the program itself is very much in ferment. So for example, the arrangement for this year is only rotating around only 2 minors, one on agri-food and the other one on crime, safety, and security at large. And these are essentially electives that you can choose for yourself. But also the very same curriculum, which is slightly different for bachelor's, drawing from the data science bachelor's, which is breathered in terms of our own program. But the planned curriculum for next academic year is actually going to be enriched with further electives. One more on health and vitality, so essentially e-health, all sorts of data-driven health analytics, things like that. but also a research minor, which is even more technical. So a minor that brings you closer to the topics and research endeavors that you would have, for example, in the master's degree in data science and engineering at Eindhoven University of Technology. This is also designed to welcome students that cannot, for whatever reason, follow that master's program and might want to have a second shot at possibly following it. And that's it, I think, on my part. I want to leave you in the very capable hands of Sofia Santos from Mexico, who is also a student at YATS and is going to be able to say a few words about life and education at YATS. I think there's also another question. Is there also an option to mix some of the electives from different minors? Yes, there is. It is not very typical because some of them are joined already, but there is the option. Yes, the option is there. Does that answer your question? I presume it does. Okay, Sophia.
Yes, perfect. I think Lucas is going to change the slides, or can we go to the next one maybe? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I'm Sofia, I'm from Mexico, and I am an international student here, as you can see. I'm living in Rotterdam at the moment, but I am studying at YATS. So I take the train every time I have to go there. And luckily for me, I don't have to be there every day because, yeah, everything is online at the moment. So, yeah, for me, that's a plus.
Rotterdam'dan gidip geliyormuş.
Sorry?
Rotterdam'dan nasıl gidip geliyoruz?
Yeah.
You can continue, Sophia.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, that's me. I did a bachelor in industrial engineering before I came here. I did that in Mexico. After that, I worked in supply chain management for some years. And then I decided, yeah, I want to do something about data, but I don't know how to do it. So I look for different study programs. And then I found YATS and I fell in love of this ecosystem. And now I'm here. I think that's a brief introduction of myself, so you can know a little bit about me. Can we go to the next one? Okay. So, what about the student life? I've been here since January 2020. So I did at first the pre-master, then I started the master program, and now I'm finishing the first year of the master program. So I've been around YATS for 1.5 years already. At first, as I am an international student, it was a little bit difficult as I didn't know a word in Dutch, but now I'm more chill about it. But yeah, once you realize how chill is YATS, then everything is easier. So that's why I put these 4 pictures of the student life in YATS. The first one is the bar we have at the campus, because this is the newest thing we have at YATS. It is still new. We haven't used that. So maybe in September we can do something there as during the introduction week or the introduction day. That would be great. So we have a really nice bar at YATS for students, but also for professors. So Damian can be there as well. And yeah, with this, I want to say, YATS is very chill. I remember my first week there, I was super lost and all the professors were super great with me. Also the association. YATS is made as an ecosystem for data scientists. It doesn't matter if you are a student or a professor or part of a company that is within the ecosystem. It's for everyone. So that's quite great about YATS. The next picture we can see here is Pauljes. Pauljes is one of the most common bars that we have. We go there every other time to have some beers or to talk about school or about something else. So yeah, that's something nice about that. We have this these bars around the corner, literally around the corner of the campus, so we can go there every time we want to. And yeah, before everything were online, we had a lot of social activities, not only for master students, but also for pre-masters and for professors and all the people that is part of the ecosystem. And this is one, I think the last one we had, I think Lucas was there, if I remember well. This is Carnival in 2020. So YATS ecosystem is not only about the technical stuff and the data and data engineering and data science, that those are super important, I know. But it's also about the community we develop as students there, but also as professors and all the people, all the actors that are part of this ecosystem. Yeah, you can enjoy of be part of this nice community. Finally, as the boss is great, but it's not super big. Not all the students live there. So some of us, well, I live in Rotterdam, for instance. Some others live in Tilburg. Some others live in Eindhoven. So we use the train a lot. And it's quite chill that YATS is 5 minutes away from the train station. So it's great. If you are not living at the moment at the bus, you don't have to move there. And yeah, I think that's a small but nice introduction about the student life. And yeah, something else. When I was thinking about being a data scientist, I was quite afraid because I don't have the technical skills. I didn't have, now I have it. I didn't know how to programming or how to do data engineering. What does it mean when they say Dockers or Kubernetes? But now I know. So if you don't have that technical background, it's possible. That's the first thing. It's possible to start this master program because you can do the pre-master beforehand. So they prepare yourself pretty well. And once you're ready, you can start the master. And I think that's all from my side.
Perfect. Thank you, Sophia. And also thank you, Damien, for your both of your point of views to studying at YATS, once from the more academic side, or I don't know if this was only academic, Damien, but also from the student life side. Thank you for this, Sophia. Maybe before we go into the Q&A, there's still 2 points I would like to add to the questions we've already had. First is with regards to the practical versus the theoretical exams. From my experience as a student, I can say that I don't think we have a single course where you only have a theoretical exam, but you will always have part of the grading being done based on a project or some teamwork assignment, some other form of actual application of the knowledge you've gained. The second part is with respect to mixing electives. One thing that I think is really great about YATS is that we're quite small, but this also means that it's almost like a family, and almost anything is possible. So it's you will know the staff quite fast. You will know all your fellow students. Everyone is integrated with each other. So if you want to do something, there's almost always a way to do it. So with that, please feel free to pose your questions. Raise your hand if you want to, don't want to type them into the chat. And then we can go ahead.
Yeah, I see the first question. But what made you decide to do this master instead of data science and society master? That's a good one. Actually, I looked for master programs for around 1 year because I was in that moment I was in Mexico. I was working, so I had the time to look for different study programs. And I was hesitating between the 3 because we have I think one in Eindhoven about engineering, the one for entrepreneurship here at Yachts and society at Tilburg. And you know, I really like the innovation ecosystem we have at Yachts. When I was reading about the project itself, not only the program, but also the ecosystem we have, the actors we have involved, that's why I chose Yachts. That's the first reason. And I think maybe because I am quite proactive, I think Lucas and Damian have seen that before, also Anna. So yeah, it's my profile. I'm quite proactive, so I have to be part of the entrepreneurial area.
Yeah, I think also maybe to add to the Master of Data Science and Society, it's first of all a one-year program. So just by the time, you don't get the technical depth that is offered by the programs at JUDS and TUE. The second thing is also the targeted audience. The Data Science and Society Master won't prepare you for being an independent data scientist, but will prepare you to support the integration of data more from a business perspective. So if you have a business degree and you want to lead like as a basically in some sort of a Scrum setting as a problem owner, a data project, that's what you can do with this master. But you won't be someone who will actually develop the models and deliver the value through the analytics and the engineering.
Yeah, so I was about to say the same. So thanks for mentioning that. It is a very critical point, Lucas, that you're making. The point is, and I was part of the committee that formed that master's program for the one-year program. The critical point that needs to come across is that program, it is not designed to train data scientists or data engineers. It is designed to give you the background to work with data scientists and engineers. Depending on let's say the types of prospects that you want, Yachts, on the other hand, gives you the opportunity to become either a very much applied data scientist or a very much applied data engineer. Nothing stops you from going deeper into the very technical subjects. As a matter of fact, I made one omission that, thanks to Lucas, was amended. Each of the subjects that you will go and study in Yachts contain 50-50 split of practical and theoretical, I want to say, let's say technical content, right? So our program is designed to train applied data scientists, applied data engineers. I guess that's what I wanted to say. What are the job prospects you see most? Well, maybe I can quickly comment on that. So the world needs AI engineers the most, and it needs applied data scientists the most. From a statistical perspective, every company is a software company, and 7 out of 10 companies that are in fact software companies need AI in their own supply chain. What this means is there is a huge already shortage of AI skilled personnel, regardless of whether they are data scientists or data engineers. And that's really where the money is. So I want to say job prospects. If you really want to build new models, then you want to go to Eindhoven. If you really want to apply state-of-the-art technology and cool toys, you really want to come to Yachts. What's the most? Python is the most used programming language. Python is the lingua franca of data science and engineering. And it is, in fact, not really a programming language. It is a scripting language. So it's not as quote unquote difficult as a regular programming language. It is an interpreted programming language, which means that you are speaking to a machine. Let's put it that way. Does that answer your question, Dirt?
Perfect, thank you. Although, to add to this, we're also using R, and this connects quite well to the balance within the courses. One thing that was really striking when starting the master program was actually in the course of strategy and business models, where I thought we will have just some kind of another business course, whatever. But then in the end, we were actually implementing natural language processing models in R in order to do our research about business models and strategy. So even with courses where you don't necessarily expect the technical spin, you will still find it.
Yeah, and one need to learn a programming language to become a data scientist. Data science means you are able to use some form of modeling, whether it is machine or deep learning, or whether it is in fact statistical modeling on data to come up with a predictive, preemptive, or proactive analytic modeling technique, right? And there are tools for that. Weka is one tool, R is another tool, and you can script R, but there's also automated ways in which you can produce R code without actually ever seeing the code. So code is part of the logic, but it is not the means. You will not join YATS to learn programming of data science or data engineering. You will join YATS to learn data science and data engineering. If you don't like Python programming, nobody shoots you in the head. I see some more questions popping up.
Sander is asking about the added knowledge you will gain after the bachelor's in artificial intelligence. I think what is really important here. I had my bachelor's in econometrics, so it was very statistically based, and still this is a master levels program. So even though you have most of the topics maybe already touched upon in your bachelor's, there is still a lot more depth to go to, and also you will develop your academic skills in terms of actually learning yourself, going through research, producing or contributing to research. And at the same time, it's about the application, what was said multiple times already, the entrepreneurial part. Coming from a very technical background, you will really learn how to generate the value. And this is something I really learned during my thesis internship right now also. It doesn't help if you know all the good models, as long as you don't ask the right questions and solve the right problems. And so that's, I think, what the master brings. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And keep in mind, the courses that you will sustain bring you exactly closer to what Lucas was saying. So they bring you where data science and engineering can make a difference. Like, for example, the cybersecurity course, we are using generative adversarial learning to predict criminal scenarios in cities which have smart enhancements like IoT technologies or smart cameras, things like that. So using deep learning where it counts, right? So offering a predictive model that tells a municipality where it is most vulnerable, for example. And this is what you only see at YATS. You will be able to apply these cool toys, irrespective of whether you have learned them in your bachelor's or in some of the courses in the master's degree program. Of course, the master's degree program, like my deep learning course, constantly gets updated with more content from state-of-the-art techniques. It's not like you will learn you will also learn the basics if you don't have them, but that's in the pre-master. In the pre-master course, which was my own course a couple of years ago, we have basics of machine learning. You have things like support vector machine learning. You have things like decision tree learning. So these are the basic families of machine learning. But still, this is pre-master's level. At the master's degree level, you will be able to apply them more in action. Are there a lot of mandatory contact hours? I don't think so. In pre-learning, I did a lot of mandatory contact.
Well, I would say you can't do it without, because of all the teamwork. You will have to be on site. There were never like lists passed in lectures where you need to sign that you're present, but you will be working in teams, and from time to time there will be a high workload. So coming on site, seeing people face to face is something that is very hard to skip out on.
Yeah, and even in these online moments of life, it is still the case. You have sometimes to be in a meeting for 2 hours or 1 hour with your teammates, because I think everything in Yachts, it's not everything, but most of the things are made to work, to learn us, to teach us how to work as a team. And that's one of the most important things, because at the end, when we are working in a company or when we are developing something from scratch, a startup from scratch, we need to learn how to work as a team. So yeah, you need those hours.
Maybe Sophia, we had the question before on the technical things you've learned. You already mentioned Kubernetes and Docker. Now your background is in industrial engineering, and you just finished your first year. What are the impressions you have so far from the courses, in terms of like, what are the hard courses? What are really the striking things you've learned, you think?
Yeah, well, if we think about the technical skills, I think the hardest one in the second semester, I cannot think only on one. For me, prescriptive algorithms, but also data architectures, both of them are challenging, but are my favorites. Because yeah, it's the technical skill, the technical stuff, that the things that you want to learn. And I think from the first semester, maybe data engineering, because I had no clue how to start, because I didn't have a background on that. But once you understand it, everything is easier. So yeah, those are challenging, but I think super useful, because when we think about data science, the first thing we think is maybe deep learning or machine learning, but actually data engineering is super useful, and it's important. It's crucial for companies to have data engineers working there. So yeah.
Thank you. Thesis topics. I know Damien can answer this question very well. So please go ahead.
I can only answer from the perspective of data engineering, big data engineering. So this is the subject dear to my heart. So I will say a few words about that. But then I definitely encourage you to reach out to further lecturers in Yachts. They're very friendly, so feel free. Example thesis topics. Okay, so I can tell you the ones that are currently ongoing. So one of my students I sent in SAP, and she is looking at using machine and deep learning technology to discover software defects that relate to cybersecurity. So imagine you have large-scale software engineering process, and you want to figure out ways in which deep learning can tell you, hey, this is a security violation, vulnerability right here in this piece of software right here. This is critical, because if you introduce some of these software issues are introduced on purpose by insider people who are working with somebody else to use, hacking for a specific type of software. I have 14 master students in industry. 10 of them are engaged in industrial internships. Another example is, for example, at KPN, in which a couple of my students are using natural language processing to discover recurrent patterns for predictive maintenance. So for example, you have a large scale support hotline for a KPN product. What you want to do is process the user requests for help and discover opportunities to solve a specific problem faster, so that the operator that answers to your request knows specific types of scenarios which can be recommended. Another one of my students is looking in the same company, so in KPN, is looking at ways in which the infrastructure which is hosting the KPN software-defined network can be kept continuously operating without going down. So using machine and deep learning to predict or to instrument predictive maintenance, right? So in general, in the scope of big data and data engineering, what you do is take some form of predictive, preemptive, proactive analytic technology, which typically also comprises deep machine and deep learning, and apply it in some sort of sandbox or as part of some sort of data pipeline. Those are the kinds of topics that I think you're looking at. Yeah, thanks, Anne. I think Anne also shared some cool projects.
All right.
But in general, if you want to have an extra look, just go and Google my name, and you will find the kinds of works that we are involved in.
Maybe the other question is for you, Sophia. What is the balance between group and individual work assignments and projects?
Oh yeah, well, I can talk about only the first year, right? Because I've been here for 1 year in the master program. I mean, the first semester, almost everything, the big assignments, at least the big projects are you have to work with a team. The second one is half-half. It's more balanced, because I think it is because in the first semester, especially, you have a big workload, and yeah, you have to be very efficient to learn everything, but also to deliver all the assignments on time. And during the second semester, you are more used to the way of working at YATS, so you can work on your own in your assignments individually. And I think that the last year is different because you have to do your master thesis, but Lucas can complement that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also say, while there definitely still is group work in all courses of the second year, it's definitely less than in the first year. So the share of individual assignments, but also examination or like proper written examination is increased. And but yeah, you still have your thesis work, but then also when it comes to group work, obviously a lot of students go into companies in the second year, where then they get a whole new team to balance out the teamwork that is a bit less in the second year from the side of JATS.
Yeah, and I would say, just to finish this part, I don't know if you are used to working in teams, but at the end, you will have to, because you are going to work in a company or in your own company, but you have to communicate your assignments or your projects with others. So this is a good rehearsal of that.
All right, guys. Now, are there still questions left? Anything we didn't touch upon? You still want to say something, Sophia or Damien? Oh, there's a new one coming. All right, the extracurricular program or projects. I could tell a bit about them, but I don't know, Sophia, Damien, how well are you acquainted with them?
Yeah, so just to say a few words. Unfortunately, I also need to leave in about 5 minutes, but I will say definitely a few words about MKB Data Lab. So for those of you who don't know, MKB stands for Small Medium Enterprise in Dutch. So the data lab essentially it plays a lot of roles, but what it does also mainly is connects the ecosystem that also Sophia was mentioning. We touched upon this several times. There's all sorts of opportunities there. You can also work for a company for an internship outside of your thesis work. So in case you are interested in looking a bit deeper into that, there's an option for it. But what we do mainly is liaise with the MKB Data Lab, because they provide, for example, cases for some of the DEA courses are coming through the MKB Data Lab. They are an entry point for any company that wants to get involved with yachts. In terms of some cool projects, one of the European projects that we have, which relates to the protection of urban spaces using cyber-physical technology, was instrumented through some of the companies handled by the MKB Data Lab. Other nice examples, people are just doing internships. Like one of my students last year did a thesis on predictive anomaly detection in bank transactions. So I don't think I'm in the liberty of sharing which bank it was, but it was through the MKB Data Lab. Exchange opportunities, yes, there are, yes. So maybe from the accent you cannot tell, but I'm half Italian, half Canadian. And I have at least 3 good opportunities to travel to Italy with an exchange program. There's more coming, but there's all sorts of details that I don't really have too much time to share. But yes, there are exchange opportunities.
Yeah,
and
maybe
for
there's one important thing with respect to the exchange also, and that is that you can only go on exchange with the university where you have your main enrollment. So if you know that you really want to go on exchange, look at the opportunities Tilburg and Eindhoven offer, and have your main enrollment with either of them, depending on where you want to go. The second thing is the exchange program will not count as credits generally. So you would have to extend your master program. You cannot substitute 1 semester of the program with an exchange. At least that's the current status. Maybe there's some trickery if you pull courses, if you increase your workload in one course, maybe you can supplement one, but that's definitely no guarantee. Also, with respect to the MKB Data Lab and the JADS Playground, we had previous sessions in February and March, I think, where we had a whole presentation on MKB Data Lab and JADS Playground. You can find them on YouTube, on the JADS YouTube channel, and just click through them, and somewhere in the middle, you will have a short introduction to these 2 sessions. All right. Oh, there's one specific question on the integration with the industrial engineering at TUE. That's quite a specific one. In general, for these type of questions, I can really advise you to send them to questions@jads.nl. There will be someone who will respond to you very specifically on this and can tell you how it can work out for sure. And in this sense, I would say thank you all for attending. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Sophia, for your time, for your insights, your presentations. And thank you for all the prospects for joining the session. I hope you got a good impression of what JADS is like and what you can do at JADS. Yeah, if we didn't convince you by now, I think, yeah, I don't know what else to do. It's a really great opportunity, and it would be amazing to see you next year on campus. Thank you.
Indeed, thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Thanks Lucas and Sophia for standing in, and Laura and the rest of the gang, Anne, for coordinating this. Thanks a lot. Bye bye. Hope to see you soon in yachts. Bye bye.